Hey guys, Ben Nash from Pivot Wealth here, and today I'm really excited to be here chatting with Karim. He is a client of Pivot's, been working with us since 2019. Karim, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great. Appreciate you taking the time. And look, I am keen to talk a bit about sort of your journey with advice. You know, how you found it, what some of the outcomes or results have been. But so I'll dive into a bit of that. But firstly, I just want to acknowledge that Karim actually holds the title for the most creative investment strategy of any of our clients, which is investing in some tutoring for his daughter so that he can hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find out soon, get her into a selective high school and avoid the extra costs of private schooling. So no doubt there'll be a few listeners that'll be watching the results on that one, Karim.
Yeah. Look, education's really important for your kids if you're going to leave them anything. A house and all that's nice, but a good education is better and help prepare them for the world. So didn't want to go down the public schooling path. When you see the results of the selective and the private schools, they do perform better. And, you know, like most parents, you want your kids to do well. And so I want them to get into university and pursue, the course of their dreams. So
definitely.
And it's the investment in education.
I'm going to be watching closely on that one to see if I can save myself pennies for my two daughters as well. But Karim, can you just maybe a good place to start is tell us a little bit about where you were at when you first came into to see Pivot Wealth and some of the, I suppose, some of the challenges or frustrations or pain points for you at that time.
Oh, look, I stumbled across yourselves just by happened to just flick through a money magazine at my local news agency, and I got to a certain page and there was a bunch of financial planners, and then there was your picture at the bottom. Usually took a photo of your picture and your details there and then looked you up. But the reason why I did that is because a couple of years ago, I just felt very poor. Even though I'm not a wealthy person by I'm not a multi-millionaire, but I work as an IT professional, so I do earn a half decent income. But I just felt that I was still struggling to sort of make ends meet, and started getting quite stingy with my money. Regressing on things that I like coffee, and going from buying coffee pods to literally drinking instant coffee. I can safely say that I've now gone back to drinking nice coffee pods.
Good.
But it was just that frustration that it just felt like there was money coming in and a lot of money going out the door, and I wasn't able to structure it properly. And I suppose look forward to enjoying some of the things in life
That's right.
that wealth can bring along, and hence that's why I started the journey with you to help me get back on track, get my financial life back on track at least. So I've got something A, to aim for, and B, have that confidence that when I come to retire, there's a nice bucket of cash there at the end, I suppose, for my retirement to help me in the later years.
Absolutely. And I think it's a really common thing that we see, especially, life is expensive, especially life in Australia's major cities. And for people that you might be earning a really good income, but when you see that the outflows happening, then, you have that bit of nervousness that you're not going to be able to, I suppose, afford the things that you want over time. So I think that everybody really has a that, because we don't talk about money too much, that people are waiting and sort of thinking that everyone else is better, or they should be more ahead than where they are, and they're not never going to get there. And it's almost like that Jim Stackpool's sort of flywheel concept, that money is one of these things that it starts really slow and you feel like you're sort of not making progress, but when you consistently do the right things day in and day out, then you hit this tipping point, and then you can start to accelerate things. But look, I'm very happy with that. With the coffee situation, because that was one of the first things on the hit list to say that I'm without diving into the numbers, I'm pretty confident that we should be able to afford those. But yeah, it sounds that it's. I think for me, in taking you through that process and seeing that sort of light bulb when you get the clarity that you could see into the future, you immediately see that you can find a better balance. But tell us, Karim, for we've done a bunch of things together, and what is sort of 2 or 3 that have been most helpful or useful to you?
First and foremost, by far the most useful thing was a strategic plan. I think what differentiated yourself from other financial planners is they went for the stock standard, very boring. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Well, I want to be a multimillionaire and living on an island in 5 years, but that's not reality. You didn't come with yourself, and Pivot didn't come with that approach. It was a realistic approach. This is your life as it is now. This is your current age, and by the time you hit 65, and again, let's be real. Let's assume I work till I'm 65. What does that financial plan look like, and how do we go about getting there? And what are the big ticket items that we need to bake into this plan? So private, a good education is one. Potentially a nice, as a car enthusiast, perhaps a nice car at some point, a nice toy to go on. But that would be great. A house
that will be great.
Renovation. Yeah, so we got to get there. But we're on track for it by all means. And a nice retirement nest egg. So that strategic plan allowed me to at least keep it real and actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. See that actually I can afford these things if you manage your money the right way and put it in the right places. As best you can with the right timing, of course. The markets fluctuate, etc. But looking at that sort of long term, that was by far the biggest one. The second part was the ability to see have some transparency on what's actually happening out there. In terms of if you wanted to invest in certain things, what are the risks that go along with that? Today, I've been doing a lot of that. Up to today, I was doing that a lot of that myself. So being able to bounce those ideas off professionals and say, should you invest in the stock market, or should you invest in cash, or should you invest in property? Where should you put that money as well? Should you stick it all in one basket? Is that okay? Should you diversify? And a lot of people say, look, diversification's the key, but that doesn't always work for everybody. Everyone's different, and everyone needs their own sort of advice, I suppose. They were the two immediate things. Once we got that established, look at a debt recycling capability to minimise the amount of taxation, in the right way, legally, the right legal way to do it. That was also a very big thing for me. How do I minimise bad debt and maximise good debt?
Yeah, and I think just on that point, it's like just touching on your last point first, that it's common. We have this mentality in Australia that it's like, buy property, pay it off, and you feel that you're doing the right thing to get that, create that financial security and create that asset position. But sometimes it turns into tax problems that, you start to earn more and your marginal tax rates will go up. And then over time you pay down the property and the rent's going up. And then you end up with this positively geared property that you then having to, dip into your pocket even more to pay, increase that donation to the ATO each year. And of course you don't want to do anything dodgy, but you want to making sure that you're using the rules to your advantage. And I think going back to your comment on the strategic plan, that I think that historically for financial planners or financial people, accountants are pretty guilty of this as well, that sometimes they can get caught up on so much on making the very best financial decision, but it's not one that fits in with the lifestyle that you want as well. And it's always trade-offs with these things, that there's no one right approach. But I think I know that for you, that when you put everything, you lay out all of your numbers and say, okay, this is where I'm at right now, and here are some of the things that I've thought about changing. Private education, fitting in maybe a nice car at some point, increasing your spending or your pocket money, how much you're giving yourself to be able to find that lifestyle balance. That all of those things are all levers that we can pull. We can spend more, or we can not spend more. We know that spending more will mean we've got less for savings, which means our progress will be slower. But if you can spend more and still hit the financial outcomes or results that you want, then it's important, I think, that you want to find that good balance so that you're able to enjoy your lifestyle along the way. And I think that your point as well with around the transparency on risks and having someone to bounce those ideas off is a big one. Because especially as the numbers get bigger, or as the transition points become more important, we know how big a deal it is to get that decision right. That when you're going it all alone, then you're a bit stressed out, but two, you can be missing opportunities like a few of the things that we've covered that are going to end up making you a bunch of money. But Karim, tell us what are some of the tangible sort of results or outcomes that have come off the back of some of the work that we've done together?
First and foremost is cleaning up some of the spending habits. So immediately there was more cash available for me to spend on the things that we want to spend it on. Whether that be, rather than going out once every 3 months for dinner, it could be we could literally go, actually, we can afford to go out and have a nice dinner somewhere once a fortnight, and it's not going to break the budget. So cash is king. Having that immediate positive impact on cash and understanding where that flows inwards, in and out with cash flows, that was a definite tangible benefit. Straight up, that was the first thing. Or we can actually go. We can go to the cinemas with the family, and we can go out and have dinner tonight, and it's okay. I'm not going to feel stressed. I'm not going to feel like I can't make repayments. That was all sound once we worked through that strategic plan. The second tangible one is probably the debt recycling. The fact that we're going to maximize that cash for bad debts and good debts and get more out of it. I think that's another fantastic tangible outcome for us, that we can do more with this money, and hence and then use that money to then also drive further investments, which then in return gives us a better tangible outcome as well in the long run.
And ultimately means that you've got more money that you can then tip back into your investments. And I think that is a strategy that's going to end up saving us into the tens of thousands, if not more, over the duration of the strategy. Allows you to. It's all those little things that allow you to then compound your investments faster. But I think to your initial point about the spending and the cash flow side of things, that it's not about spending more or spending less, but it's about spending consciously with this stuff. We find that it's really easy for this leakage to come in, and money comes in, money goes out, and you're not allocating it to the things that are bringing you the most real value and satisfaction, where sometimes it only takes that, taking that step backwards and looking 50,000 foot and saying, well, what do I actually value? What is going to bring me happiness? Is it extra money for date night every week? Is it for, education for the kids? Is it, buying some toys for yourself? And let's make sure when we're spending strategically to get maximize the outcome while minimizing the the cost, and therefore maximizing the amount of money that we've got left over to invest as well. Karim, tell us though, how are you feeling now compared to how you were feeling before when it comes to your money?
Oh, for starters, the confidence is sky high. I was at a very confused place before I came along to pivot. So that was a massive win to my confidence and the confidence in my ability to understand where the money's going, what's flowing in, what's flowing out, and then being able to reset some of that and then point towards the things, as you said, some of the things that you want to enjoy in life that do require spending some cash. So that's a big thing. I'm feeling much more relaxed financially than what I was, 2 years ago when we started this journey. That's for sure. My stress levels have come down significantly. So yeah, it's all good, and I just hope it just keeps getting better and better.
Well, I think it's what we've got enough things to stress about in our lives that if we can, the more elements that we can remove, then we can focus in other areas better. But
Yeah.
on the confidence piece, Karim, what do you feel? What do you feel actually drove that confidence? Because from someone looking from the outside, it was like an almost immediate shift. What do you think actually created that?
I think when Pivot mapped it out on the plan and actually said, well, you can actually afford all of this and still do the things you need to do and still pay the bills. And it's like, oh, wow, there's actually nothing holding me back. It was actually myself and my lack of sort of financial planning at the time. I was trying to do it all myself. That didn't give me the clarity that was needed. So once the sky sort of opened up and the clouds disappeared and you saw blue sky, that was it. I was just like, I can actually do this. There's nothing wrong with it. And I shouldn't feel ashamed for, wanting to go off and enjoy life. It's there to be enjoyed. You only get one shot of it and you can't take it to the afterlife. So if you spend it wisely and spend on the things that are going to really bring you the most joy, not just for you, but for your family as well.
Absolutely. And it's funny though that I suppose with a lot of things that it's often the things that are the most simple or that seem the most straightforward that are the most effective. But when you say it like that, it makes me think like what do you think stops other people from doing that sooner? Like what is the barrier there, do you think?
I think people just don't always know. I mean, there's so many inflows and outflows with your money, and from the moment you earn it to paying tax to spending it and on things that you must spend it on and necessities like food versus the things that you want to spend it on, for your lifestyle. A lot of people don't have that clarity, and so I think a good financial plan is the key to that success. Just understanding where it is, where it's moving, and where that cash is going makes a big difference. I mean, also being able to say, what's it going to be like when I retire? I don't want to have to rely on, a pension. Who knows if a pension will even exist by the time I hit 65? So I don't want to take the risk of getting to there and then going, I have to, sacrifice lifestyle and live on scraps because of a measly pension. So while you got to enjoy your life now, we also got to think about the future, especially if you've got a family.
Absolutely, and I think with the pension situation, that the government tend to muck around with the rules over time. We saw some of those things during COVID as well. So you want to make sure that you've got your oxygen mask firmly fastened before relying on any.
Absolutely. And just look at what governments are doing in the last election. Labor wanted to introduce more taxes and stuff, and that sort of flows on. That would actually impact me if that policy was passed.
Yeah, along with a lot of people, no doubt. Yeah. Tell us, so Karim, what sort of surprised you about the financial advice process? What were you not expecting?
So that's a good question. Like I said, all the other financial planners I spoke to, they just gave you the stock standard, where do you want to be in 5 years? And it didn't really sort of go beyond that. Pivot didn't even ask me that question. It was, what's your lifestyle like today? What's keeping you up at night? And then being able to map it out on what, starting off with like on whiteboards and mapping it out and the problem statements, and then bringing it all together. That was the key. That was things like, wow, this is, I've been doing it wrong for too long, and you've just set it right, or give it as a plan at least to set it right.
Yeah, I think that sometimes though it is really easy to focus on you're focusing on trying to get somewhere, which obviously is important, but oftentimes if you look at what are the frustrations, what are the things that are slowing you down or holding you back, and the more of those things that we can eliminate, then it's just going to move you closer and closer to the ideal financial situation that you want to be in. And also, and I think that you probably got a decent sense that it is a muscle that you build over time. Like your financial fitness is something that you learn. You understand the rules more. You understand the different things that you should be thinking about more. So it's not something, while there are a lot of immediate sort of shifts that will happen, that you really get the best results, like with anything, when you build that consistency in over time, that you're giving it the focus that you need. And that's why I suppose we revisit, like we did just not too long ago. We revisit and go, okay, here's actually now some opportunities for us that weren't I suppose as apparent when we went through the process before. Then let's keep on the front foot and make sure that you're continuing to take advantage, so you can build your momentum as quickly.
Absolutely. The other key benefit that Pivot unlocked was the ability to pull levers. So if an opportunity did appear in life, or you want to make a specific decision, can I afford to go buy a new house and keep my current one? And there's the whole maybe just sort of disappeared, and it became a more clearer yes or no answer. Or it is a yes, but here are some of the risks that go along with that. Or here's a no answer, here's some of the risks, and I suppose different types of opportunities that would open up. Having Pivot there to help me understand what that actually means financially. If you pull a lever, that was a big win for me as well.
Yeah, and I think once you've got that sort of baseline strategy in place, that it is reasonably straightforward. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's straightforward that you can then look at the impact of making different tweaks. I know that we were just having a conversation just before we fired up the camera to say, well, I'm considering this decision. The decision may mean that there's more money that we can then allocate to some other investments, and then we just look at the bottom line at the end and say, is it still going to get us to where we, one, what is their actual impact and what is the real impact? But then two, the second layer of questions is to say, with that impact, am I still able to do all of the other things that you want to do? Because if there's something that you want and you can do that, and you can do a bunch of other things that you want, and you're still going to end up where you want to be. Again, it sounds pretty straightforward when you say it out loud, but the ability to quickly stress test those things is something that ensures that you can balance the emotion and the want and the desire of the choices that you're making with the financial benefits as well. And there's no one right or wrong way, but it is if you're not looking at the numbers when you're making these decisions, you're doing it based on how things feel alone, which is not always the most robust. Well, it's certainly not a robust process.
No.
For your decision making.
Markets don't care about emotions. They'll leave you behind if you use emotion. You got to use the facts. And I found that uncertainty became certainty once you took it through these strategic plans and being able to understand the numbers.
I love that, and I think that's really great to hear. And I think that the other part of that is, and sometimes we work with a lot of people that are fairly analytical. I know that you're pretty much the same, that you can create these models in spreadsheets, but sometimes if you don't have someone that has seen the ins and outs of 1,000 other people's money and the mistakes that can throw you off track, or the things the opportunities that are there, it's hard to get that same level of confidence because you don't know what you don't know. Tell me, Karim,
very much so.
What do you feel if you didn't come to us and end up getting some help. What do you think would be different now?
I definitely wouldn't have nowhere near the confidence financially. That's for sure. Whether I'd be still in the same mindset or not, I don't know. I think as an analytical person, I would have figured it out eventually. It just would have taken me a lot longer, having to do it myself manually in spreadsheets and not knowing the hidden costs or hidden constraints around, say, taxation or financial services. Having Pivot there just removed all that. You are fully set up. You can pull the right levers. You can plug the right numbers in. There's no way I would be anywhere near the confidence level I would be. I'd probably still be drinking instant coffee.
Sounds like a bit of a disaster, but I think that there, one thing is outcomes, and obviously people come for outcomes, and we've spoken about a few of those already. But the other part of it is that just making things happen more rapidly, because you do have that you're not missing anything, which gives you, because everyone's scared of, there's the FOMO thing, but the fear of stuffing it up. And when you're making these bigger decisions, that you don't. The barrier that stops people from taking the action that they need to take to get the results that they want is that they don't know that they're not missing anything. So if you have someone that can say, yes, everything is going to be okay, no, there's nothing else that we should be thinking about here, then you push it. And plus we do a bit of the doing for you to make sure that it happens and sort of lay it all up in a silver platter, that you take the action faster, then you get the results faster. And I think for any investment, that the biggest benefit that you get is the last sort of 5 years of that investment. So if you can start 5 years sooner, then you're going to be so much better off at the back end, because you've built that initial momentum and groundwork. Karim, what situations do you think are suited for people to have an advisor? Like, when should someone be thinking about actually using a financial advice company to help them with their money?
I think as you start to, I don't want to be too generalistic here, but once you start to earn at least a half decent income, and I think the earlier you start, the better. But by all means, building wealth starts sooner than later. You don't want to be 60 planning to retire at 65 and start your journey of trying to build wealth. The amount of runway you have just reduces. So the earlier the better. That'd be definitely my advice. And if you're starting to have money that you feel that you can spend, or if you feel that you are struggling to know where your money is and where it's going, then by all means, I think that's where Pivot can really help.
And I think, look, the more stuff that you've got going on, the more opportunities that creates as well. If you've got a little bit of savings, you've got some, decent savings capacity. Obviously, there's the decision-making piece, but, you might have some investments that are there, that there's more things that you can optimize or refine, and that's ultimately what drives the results. Karim, what would your advice be for someone that's listening in now, if they were thinking about getting some help with their money? What would be your top tips for
them? First and foremost, understand what you want. What are the things that you absolutely need, apart from the absolute necessities like putting food on the table? What are some of the things that you want to get out of life, both now and, I suppose, at retirement? If you've got that sort of picture in your head, it could be like, every 2 years you want to go on a nice trip to somewhere. Normally I'd say Europe, but maybe not Europe right now. But it could be a new toy. It could be education for your kids. Whatever that is, if you've got that idea, that's definitely a place to start. And then I suppose once you've got that idea and you've got I suppose engaging then with Pivot to then go, well, how do they make it happen? And that's where the power of your financial planning comes into effect.
Absolutely, and I think it's a hard one, because there's so much variety in the types of advice that, or the types of help that people can get. What would be your advice for someone on, like, how do you think that they should go about choosing which company that helps them with this sort of stuff?
Oh, you got to meet them. There's got to be a meet and greet, preferably face to face, in an office. And if you get the typical, where do you want to be? I suppose that was my yardstick. Like, I'm asking, where do you want to be in 5 years? If the answer was yes, I was there straight away. You struck off the list. I was very much looking. It's going to be different for everybody, but I was very much looking long term. How do I look? Who's someone who can give me a long term advice? What does it look like when I'm 65? If we sat down right now, could you give me a year plan up to the age of 65 and beyond even? What does that actually look like? If you can't do that, then go somewhere else. I mean, that's got to be key. Financial planning, it shouldn't just be about, going in and making a quick buck. Do you want to make a quick buck? Trade shares yourself, trade currency yourself, go down to the casino and put it all on black. You'll probably be trying to put together a plan. If you're serious about a plan, both that will support you long term and now, then those are the types of questions you should be asking a planner, and a good financial planner will be able to have that information or have the capability as well to be able to take you on that journey. Not just have the info, but to actually have the tools of the trade and the mindset to take you on the journey.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, that people don't always know when they're going down this path, because there is so much variation on the types of advisors or advice businesses that are out there, that some might just do insurance, some might just do investments, some might do your whole situation. But I think a good, it depends. It's horses for courses, right? So if someone just wants investment advice, then great, go get an investment focused advisor to help you with your investments. But if you want to, a strategic overall plan, I think one of the keys, and I don't know how you would do it without a really robust forecasting, and modeling. We use financial modeling tools to actually map those things out, but not all advisors do that. And the other tip for someone, if you're going to go down that path, you need to make sure you find someone that does. Also ask them how do they make those forecasts or scenario plans robust? Because I've seen, and it's a real bugbear of mine, I hate it when people don't get great outcomes from financial advice and they get burnt, or they get mediocre outcomes, and feel that they're frustrated with the process. But one of the things that we don't do is just take our client's word for it when it comes to, you talked about doing that cash flow diagnosis and where do things go, that we literally go almost sort of line by line to make sure that we're using inputs for this plan that are actually achievable and realistic, because that's what's going to make the models robust. If your model isn't robust, then you're making decisions based on a broken model, then you could be heading for trouble. So for anyone, I think, if I could add my 2 cents, if you're going down that path, understand how someone stress tests the data that you give to them to make sure that nothing has been missed, I think is a key to just getting that robustness.
Sure. Yeah, agree.
Karim, I could talk all day about this, but one of the things well, money's one of these things. It is a very interesting topic, and obviously we all need money for us to live on. But at the end of the day, getting financial advice is a value exchange, right? You pay a fee to get support that you do in order to deliver results. So I'm keen to get your view, like in your mind, what makes those fees worth paying to you?
First and foremost, it's the receipt of information, financial information that allows me to make a decision. I mean, that's key. It's at the end of the day, you're accountable for yourself, and it's your cash coming in. So that advice on where if you want to invest in a certain area, what are the risks that go along with that? What does it look like in the long term? Bringing all that together, ultimately for myself to make that decision. That's really what I feel like that I'm paying for. Can I pull a lever tomorrow? Will it work? Yes or no? That information is, if you're going to do it yourself, you're going to spend hours and hours, if not days, crunching through data. And even then, it will be nowhere near as accurate as the financial instruments that you would have access to, and the insight knowledge about how certain systems and processes work financially. So to me, that's where the investment in a financial planner comes in. That plan plus the ability to pull levers and make decisions to know where to put your cash.
Yeah, ultimately, I think that people don't often think that good financial planning is really just good decision making. That's all it is. Our financial planning framework is a strategic decision-making framework where it's like, let's understand what's on the hit list. Then let's agree what we're going to explore. Let's explore some stuff. Then let's see what the risks, trade-offs are. What are the outcomes? And then let's put in an action plan to make it happen. I know, like for you work in IT services, and it's exactly the same when you scope a project in IT services. But as you know, your expertise makes sure that nothing is missed when it comes to the projects that you work on. And for a financial advice company, they're giving you that they have all of the knowledge, tools, and resources to make sure that you're making the best decisions possible for you, and that nothing is being risked, but that ultimately you're in control. Because I think while it's important, and our clients trust us, of course, that wouldn't do business with us if they didn't, but trust alone is not an appropriate decision-making tool. It's got to be trust coupled with a robust framework and methodology, so that that you're not just blindly listening to someone or just saying, here's my money, you look after it. Because if you do that, you're never going to increase your financial fitness, and it's going to be really difficult to get confidence that you should, so that you don't have to stress.
Yeah, absolutely.
Karim, thank you very much for joining us. There's covered a lot of ground there, mate, but really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
Some great tips, and I'm looking forward to the next step, and ultimately getting you that toy that you want.
Thanks, Ben. Much appreciated.